events. For non-events, there are six defined time controls. Three of them have 30-second increments, and 3 do not. 3 have nothing at all. So you have to go to the FIDE handbook and see what those 6 FIDE, as they call it, rates of play are, and make sure you comply with those, at least until we go to Istanbul. And the reason I say that is because a couple months ago, I sent to the Secretary of the Qualification Commission a letter asking that the 5-second be accepted in normal events. At the last Congress, we had some norms that were accepted as an exception. Mr. Goisberg has several tournaments where people earn norms, and we have to fight for those to be approved. But from now on, we basically have to abide by the rules. What I argued in New York and also in my letter to the Qualification Commission is that since increment is the preferred method, obviously, and yet we have 3 rates of play that do not have anything at all, no increment and no delay, then certainly delaying must be preferred than nothing at all. So I think that's going to be approved, although Stuart Rubin from England, one just wants to go back to the way it was prior to 2005, I believe, where they were not defined, just whatever minimum it was, and not being specific, like 40, 90, something less than 30 with 30-second increment. Don't be that specific, just a minimum.
Any changes will not take effect until next July.
That's correct, yeah. So, yeah, 1 July 2013. Any others?
Thank you,
Thanks.
Frank. Next on the agenda is the report of FIDE Vice President Beatrice Marinello. Unfortunately, Beatrice has a relative that is experiencing health problems, and she wasn't able to join us this year. So we'll move on to number 8, election of delegate appointed committees. And the first on the list is the audit committee election.
Madam President, I had asked on the forums for volunteers for the audit committee. The requirement to be serve on the audit committee is that one must be a delegate or alternate delegate who has either a CPA, a CMA, or has experience with financial management and audit reports. So we had several folks volunteer. Actually, we had one of them is currently a member of the audit committee, and that is Mike Mulford of Georgia. We also had, are putting forth the remaining 2. We can elect 3. We're putting forth 2 others, Bill Brock, CPA of the great state of Illinois, and Bob Howe from the great state of Missouri. So those 3 folks, we did have I'm sorry? Bob Howe, H-O-W-E. They're all 3 here. And Savan Maradian had also expressed an interest in doing it, but I think Savan's going to be proposed for the bylaws committee here in a minute, and he had graciously withdrawn so that we had a little more geographic representation. So Bob Howe of Missouri, Mike Mulford of Georgia, and Bill Brock of Illinois are the 3 that the committee wanted to put forward for that position, for those positions.
We need a second. Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Seeing no discussion, all in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. The new members are Mike Mulford, Bill Brock, and Bob Howe.
Would you ask them to stand up for a moment? So we
Yes, please stand up.
That's Mike, that's Bill, and that's Bob.
bylaws committee election.
Madam President, as the bylaw committee liaison, could we defer that until our current chair gets back in the room?
Sure. So moving on to the.
I have the list. Oh, you want to go ahead and do that? Okay. Then if we need him to get back in the room, we can hold off voting.
I'll read it, assuming I can read his handwriting.
Well, that's what I thought your problem might be.
I think I got it. All right, this is put forth by Harold Winston and Guy Hoffman, current co-chairs. This is a proposal for the 2011-2012 Bylaws Committee. The members are Myron Lieberman, Arizona; Richard Kepke, Northern California; Randy Huff, Southern California; Gerald Larson, Alabama; John McCrary, South Carolina; Robert Persante, Florida; David Mailer, Maryland; Joe Lux of New Jersey; Gary Kitts, Michigan; Savan Maradian, Illinois; Guy Hoffman, Wisconsin; Harold Winston, Illinois; and Michael Mulford, Georgia.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any objections? Discussion? Okay. All in favor, raise your credential. Okay. All opposed? Any abstentions? Randy, did you vote no or abstain? Or were you just moving your hand?
I normally say the motion before I make that.
Okay, I saw you wave your credential. Okay, motion passes. Election committee, Marvin Legal.
I simply suggest the renaming of the existing committee. That happens, then we'll have to continue to name our own chair.
We don't have a list of those members right now. Okay, we'll delay this and come back when we get the list. Moving on to the ethics committee. I have a recommended list, and that list includes Selby Anderson, Richard Buchanan, Roger Gottschall, Jim Gray, James Manella, Alex Relaya, did I say that right? Relia, Kim Sloan, Harold Stencil, and Andy Val. And that's a motion by Ken Sloan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Objection? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Next on the list is LMA.
That needs to be deferred.
LMA is deferred. Okay.
No, it is not. No, it is not.
On Tim's.
The nominees can be found in my LMA report, which is on pages 48 and 49. And we are suggesting that 9 members continue. Jack Adamo resigned, and we are suggesting that Harold Winston take his place. So those names are on page 49.
Yes, those members are Frank Camerata, Steve Doyle, Leroy Dugan, Peter Dyson, Beatrice Marinello, Randy Bauer, Tim Redmond, Fred Townsend, and Chuck Unruh.
And
Harold Winston.
And Harold Winston, yes, thank you.
You want me to read them again? Okay, that would be Frank Camerata, Steve Doyle, Leroy DeBeck, Peter Dyson. Yes. Beatrice Marinello, Randy Bauer, Tim Redmond, Fred Townsend, Chuck Unruh, and Harold Winston. Okay, Tim?
Yeah, I move.
Second.
Okay. Any objections or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, moving
Madam
back.
President?
Yes,
I have from the minutes of last year's meeting, the current members of the Elections Committee.
okay. Would you like to read them?
The current members of the Election Committee are Myron Lieberman of Arizona, Roger Gottschall of Iowa, Kenneth Ballou of Massachusetts, Woody Harris of Virginia, and Ernest Schlick of Virginia.
Are you moving, Tom? Are you making the motion?
I move to elect to the Elections Commission Myron Lieberman of Arizona, Roger Gottschall of Iowa, Kenneth Ballou of Massachusetts, Woody Harris of Virginia, and Ernest Schlick of Virginia.
Second.
Any discussion or objection? Seeing none, I move that we vote. All in favor, please raise your credential. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to committee reports. Most committee reports are included in this year's delegates call. So we'll move on to old business.
Madam President, before we move on to old business, one additional committee report, or addition to committee report, has been distributed to the delegates, and that is the Professional Players Health Benefit Committee. The report that's in the delegates call didn't include any numbers. So, and I believe there's a requirement to see what those numbers are. So that has been made available to the delegates in a handout. I apologize, there are two typographical errors in the handout, which are entirely my fault. Our Pat has, if you do not have one, Pat has more. And the summary of it is that the checking account started out with just under $17,000, collected $5,400 from events, paid out $9,000 in benefits. Checking account at the end of the year has just under $13,200 in it. The CD that is dedicated to that has $102,400 in it. The total balance just under $115,600. Benefits were paid to two individuals during the past year, and this is where the typographical errors are, because it was late last night and I was in a hurry. Asa Hoffman received $6,000 from that. That's Hoffman with two N's. And Eric Schiller, which includes a C, that's CH, received $3,000, with a total of $9,000 in benefits paid from the fund. During the current year, benefits are limited to $10,000 lifetime to any one individual. There is no limit on the amount that could be paid out from the fund in any one year, but $10,000 lifetime per individual. Obviously, the limit that could be paid out of the fund is the amount of the fund. So that is and the funding mechanism for this is the $1 checkoff that is in the tournament submission report for any event. Events that do choose can pick up some extra Grand Prix points by supporting the fund as well. So that is the additional report of the Professional Players Health Benefit Committee.
Thank you, Alan. Does anyone have any questions for Alan?
Would appointment information regarding the health benefit be ordered?
Yes.
This is referral.
Microphone?
Can you please use the microphone, Mr. Brown?
Just to pick up on what was discussed yesterday, has any provision been made for post-Obamacare administration of the Professional Players Health Benefit Funds? I find it a little irregular or less than desirable that specific awards are being made to folks who bad medical events have. I think it'd be much preferable that players 55 and above were getting help buying insurance so they can so the money we're going towards wellness care in the years before they get Medicare.
Thank you for your question, Mr. Brock. The answer to your question at this point is no, since those provisions have not kicked in yet, but I'm certain the committee will consider that as it moves forward and as we know exactly how those provisions may play out.
Any other questions? Thank you, Alan. Moving on to item 10, old business. First on the agenda, ADM 12-7, Harold.
Pursuant to Article 3, Section 10 of the bylaws, the delegates reviewed the promotional memberships offered by the Executive Board in 2011, 2012, and authorized their continuation. This is a resolution required by the bylaws, and I believe Bill Hall already reported on the promotional memberships.
Any discussion? Objections? Okay. All in favor, please raise your credential. All opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. ADM 12-8, Rachel Lieberman.
Well, folks, I think this one's pretty simple. We all know Dwayne Barber has done a tremendous amount on a national level to promote chess in every way. This is giving him an honor he so richly deserves. This is the second year this motion has appeared on the agenda because it does take 2 years in order to pass it. I ask you to please vote yes for it. Thank you.
I second everything Rachel said. I note that it also requires a 3/4 majority. We got that last year, and I hope we'll get that again when the vote is taken. To the minute, if we do, but Chair should announce there's a 3/4 vote in favor.
I'd just like to mention that the Scholastic Committee supports this motion unanimously, and the Scholastic Workshop held on Wednesday approved this motion unanimously by acclamation.
Thank you. Any other comments or discussion?
Yes, for those of us who were not here last year, do we have, is this a spot being created, or do we have a limited number of spots for the additional delegates? Thank you.
If you look, the bylaws deal with this in Article 5, Section 8, and the number of individuals other than past president shall not exceed 20. We are not close to that number now, so there is plenty of room.
Other questions? Okay. Call the motion. All in favor?
By acclamation.
All against? Motion passes.
Madam President, would you make sure that the minutes reflect that that motion passed by more than a 75% vote?
Yes, thank you, Alan.
She said it while you were applying.
DM 1118, Alan Priest.
And Harold Winston, please assist me with this. The last year, the Bylaws Committee and the Governance Task Force brought to the delegates a plan to revamp the governance structure of the USCF. I'm going to hold the mic, Harold, because when we hand this off, if we move it around, we're going to be raising it up and down. To revamp the governance structure of the USCF, to clarify and to streamline the operation. Right now, the delegates are clearly the board of directors of the U.S. Chess Federation. The problem that that presents is that the delegates are a body that's in a state of flux continually. The people who are the delegates change in some cases every week or so. Also, we have an issue with the delegates even recognizing that they are directors. We have a significant number of delegates who would prefer not to be directors of the organization, along with the associated legal liability of being directors. From a practical standpoint, this body only meets once a year, and the affairs of the organization need to run on through the entire course of the year. That's why we have an elected executive board, and that executive board functions in the stead of the delegates throughout the rest of the year. Last year, we brought this proposal to this body. We talked about it extensively in workshops. We talked about it and debated it extensively on the floor. The delegates added language and made suggested changes, and then referred it back to the Bylaws Committee, at which time I was the chair, a co-chair, prior to the dubious distinction of being elected to the executive board. And as a result, we took that back this year to take under consideration the changes the delegates had proposed, and also, most importantly, to get with our corporate council in Illinois to make sure that the will of the delegates could be exercised in a way that would be compatible with Illinois nonprofit corporation law. This process involved a rather significant amount of work, and it involved significant amounts of consultation with our attorney. On the report for the VP Finance, you will see under the legal bills section the amount called governance, where we spent some money to make sure that we were doing this in a way that was legal. That's not the total bill, because we've had the attorney on the line while we've been out here back-checking and just making sure that we were doing some things correctly. With his advice, we have had to change some things that were in the DM 1118 proposal. And as such, what we are proposing to do here, just to make the amendments to DM 1118, are these. And then we will move on into 1209 through 1215. What we would like to do under 1118, first of all, is to delete paragraph 1. Paragraph 1 presently reads, the articles of incorporation are being amended to state that the executive board of the USCF is the board of directors. We're going to deal with this issue in a separate ADM 14 and 15. So we would like to remove this paragraph from 1118. So I am proposing we amend 1118 to delete paragraph 1.
And that was endorsed by the bylaws workshop unanimously. Second.
We have a second. Harold? Second.
Isn't this considered a friendly amendment?
Yes.
So why do we have to vote?
Okay.
Thank you.
We've accepted that change. Second, paragraph 3 is a scrivener's error that we would like to correct. Paragraph 3 reads, DACI 57 shall be amended. The revised DACI 49 would read. It is DACI 49 shall be amended. So that's just a scrivener's error to correct that. So paragraph 3 should read DACI 49 shall be amended and remove the first sentence. We're on page 17 in the delegates call, by the way. Paragraphs 4 and 5 would be deleted. Paragraph 4 references Article 5, Section 1, amended to read, the legislative governing body shall be the Board of Delegates. Article 6, Section 2, the next paragraph, amended to read, the Executive Board will be the Board of Directors. We're going to deal with that in ADM 1450. So we're removing that from here. What we are leaving in 1118 fundamentally are the right of the delegates to access official monthly financial reports. That's the DACI 49 issue. Article 9, Section 12 is amended to read Board of Delegates, Executive Board, and includes both the words delegate and director. That is the provision that provides for the indemnity of different volunteers on official USCF business. So we have added the word delegate in addition to the word director. In anticipation of the change, if the change is not approved, it doesn't matter. We can add delegate and director both, and they'll mean the same people. And that is the only change there. That's what we presented on the floor last year. Under the Article 9, Section 13, the amendment there says that they will be ratified before after judgment by the Board of Directors. Because the Board of Directors is the one who must ratify acts of the officers if any of them might be questioned in any suit. That would be the Board of Directors. And Article 9, Section 14 also adds the word director and delegate. Right now it just says directors. So we're expanding Article 9, Section 14 to include the delegates. And those are the only changes there. And those are not changes in what the delegates proposed last year, but those are the changes in existing bylaws that are in those provisions.
Well, I just have one question for Alan. It may not make a difference. Are we saying that this would be effective immediately or effective January 1st, 2013?
These provisions would be effective immediately. These provisions would be effective immediately.
And again, just to repeat that this was discussed at the bylaws workshop, it was January 27th and nothing at that time. That was Friday.
Questions? Discussion? Any objections? Calling the question. Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your credential. All opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. Moving on to ADM 1209. Alan?
Madam President and delegates, ADM 1209 is in there to address the concern that was raised last year in the workshop and by the delegates on the floor that the delegates maintain control over the life member assets. Presently, as we explored this legally about making the change, presently there are several committees that are approved, that are appointed by the delegates. Under Illinois nonprofit corporate law, and indeed under nonprofit corporate law in practically every state of the union,
because it is in the Model Nonprofit Corporation Act, according to our attorney in Illinois. For a committee to be able to legally bind any nonprofit organization, that committee